Ron Gilbert est un game designer de légende dans le monde du jeu d'aventure. Il figure parmi les créateurs de Maniac Mansion, Indiana Jones 3 et Monkey Island 1 et 2. Après avoir passé 10 ans dans le domaine du jeu d'aventure pour les plus petits, il est revenu aux jeux vidéo traditionnels avec Death Punk et nous présente aujourd'hui un nouveau titre, The Cave.
It's an adventure game about these 7 characters that go into this dark, deep, sentient, talking cave, looking for what each of them desires the most. It's an adventure game, so there's a lot of puzzle solving. There's a lot of exploring the world, picking up items, figuring out how to use them to solve puzzles in interesting and clever ways. We really looked at adventure games and what could kind of be streamlined and cut away from them. Inventory was one of the things that I felt was getting kind of bloated over the years, so there's no inventory in the cave. Just running around the world is just something that's fun to do. At the start of the game, you see all 7 characters sitting above the ground around a campfire. And at the very beginning of the game, you can actually switch between all 7 characters. And then there's this point where 3 of the characters get trapped inside the cave. And that's the point where you can't switch to the other 7 anymore. And then you've kind of picked your 3 that you're going to use to play the game with. When you pick different characters, a couple of things change. Each character has their own story. Plus the characters, they have different ways of solving puzzles. The time traveler, she can teleport. So she can teleport through, solid walls. And so there might be, some object behind a door and she can just teleport through the door, pick up the object and teleport out. Where if you didn't have the time traveler, you'd have to solve a much more complex chain of adventure game puzzles to get the door open. So, throughout the entire game, there's all these ways that different characters can use their abilities to solve puzzles differently. And then the big way that it's different is there are giant areas of the cave that are themed for the 7 characters.
Alors que c'est son dernier jeu en date, The Cave est un projet qui trotte dans la tête de Ron Gilbert depuis un bon moment déjà. Il a fallu que Tim Schafer le convainque de s'y mettre pour enclencher le projet.
The cave's an idea that I've had for going on 25 years. It actually predates Maniac Mansion. And it was just an idea about these 3 explorers that go into this, sentient, talking cave. And then over the years, I would think about it a little bit, and then it would go away, and then I'd think about it some more, and it would go away. And a couple of years ago, I was thinking about it again, and I happened to be having lunch with Tim Schafer, and I told him about the idea, because it had popped up again, and he really liked it, and said, well, that's a really, really clever idea. Why don't you come to Double Fine and let Double Fine make the cave? And it seemed like a great idea. I could never work on a game with 100 or 200 people, like these giant AAA games. I like smaller teams where, everybody can be involved in the process and everybody can throw out ideas and, everybody just really kind of knows, the game that we're making. So I tend to like really small teams. Maniac Mansion was 3 people, right? It was myself, Gary Winnick, and David Fox, and that was it. Monkey Island was only 7 people, myself, Dave Grossman, Tim Schafer, and a couple of artists. So I've always enjoyed really small teams of people. Yeah, good puzzles and adventure games are kind of difficult in some ways. They should always make sense. They should always seem logical. You should never feel like you're just randomly combining one object with another. Even if you don't really understand it initially, it's like once you solve the puzzle, you should go, oh, I get it. I totally should have seen that, right? That's kind of a good adventure game puzzle. A good adventure game puzzle is a puzzle that, you'll spend a little bit of time just really perplexed. Then this light bulb will just go off in your head and it's like, oh, I get it. And then you just run through and do all the stuff to solve the puzzle. And it's that feeling of accomplishment, that's kind of the successful part of an adventure game.
Les fans de jeux d'aventure à base de puzzles sur ordinateur ont vécu une longue traversée du désert à la fin des années 90. Aujourd'hui, il semble que le genre revienne en force.
It's really great that a lot more people want to play adventure games, and the market does seem to be growing at a good rate these days. And it's like, in my opinion, most of that comes from, there's just a lot more people playing games today because of mobile devices. Just everybody plays games. I take the train to work every morning and half the people on the train are playing games. Because of that, most people that play games, they're not interested in hyper-violent games. They're not interested in games where it's like super fast reaction times. They do like slower, puzzle-oriented. I mean, The best-selling game in the history of gaming is Angry Birds, right? I mean, they've done about 1 billion copies of that game, and it's a puzzle game. It's very slow, and you have to figure things out as you launch the birds. You know, people like that kind of stuff, and adventure games are something that can deliver that to people, but also have a lot of really good story, a lot of good characters, interesting dialogue. So that's why there's just a lot more people interested in adventure games today.
The Cave est prévu sur Nintendo eShop, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live Arcade et Steam les 22 et 23 janvier. Ne manquez pas la critique la semaine prochaine dans 100%.